I never planned to work at a 7-Eleven. Honestly, it was just supposed to be a stopgap. Something to keep the lights on while I figured out the rest of my life. After Daniel died, everything came apart at once. Bills, grief, daycare. My daughter Riley was only 3. I remember standing in line at the DMV trying to hold it together, knowing I had no backup plan and no one coming to save us. That was 3 years ago. Now I'm 31, working the evening shift on Harrison Street in Eugene. Most nights it's quiet. A few regulars, some college kids grabbing cigarettes or Red Bull, and the usual late-night burrito crowd. I come in at 3, clock out by 11. It's not glamorous, but it's honest, and it gets us by. Jim, my manager, is a good guy. He runs a tight store, keeps the place clean, treats the staff like people. He's the kind of guy who brings in donuts on Fridays just because. Reliable as sunrise, he calls me. I take pride in that. Tuesday nights are usually slow. That's when I saw him the first time. He walked in wearing a faded green jacket and khaki pants, the kind older men wear when they've stopped caring about trends. Mid-50s maybe, tall, with deep-set eyes and thinning gray hair slicked back in patches. He barely looked at me. Just bought a scratch-off ticket and a tall boy. I offered him a receipt. He didn't say a word, just nodded once and walked out. I forgot about him until the next day when Jim pulled me aside in the back office. "You didn't happen to say anything off last night, did you?" he asked, scratching his beard. "No?" I blinked. "Why?" He sighed, turned the screen toward me. "Customer complaint. Said you called him pathetic, said something about his body, said you were aggressive." I laughed out loud. "That guy? I didn't even talk to him." We rewound the footage. There it was. I handed him his beer, asked if he wanted a receipt. Nothing else. The guy barely made eye contact. Jim shook his head. "I'm tossing it. Don't worry about it." I tried not to. I really did. The second time he came in, it was the following Tuesday. Same time, same green jacket. Only this time he didn't buy anything, just walked in and slowly made his way down each aisle. He didn't talk, didn't touch anything, just stared. There's something about someone watching you without blinking that turns your stomach cold. You try to pretend it's nothing. Maybe he's lost, maybe he's confused, but deep down, something pricks the back of your neck and whispers no. When he left, I texted Jim. "Hey, that guy from last week? He was back, didn't buy anything, just stared." He texted back, "Keep your phone on you. If it gets weird, call me or the cops." I nodded to myself. Fine. Not the first time I'd dealt with creeps. Comes with being a woman in retail. But he kept coming. Every Tuesday. He never spoke, never touched anything. He'd stand behind the coffee machine for 5-10 minutes at a time, barely moving. A couple times I caught him watching me through the reflection in the fridge doors. That was the worst. Seeing his eyes in the glass, cold and still. I filed a second report. Jim backed me, but the police said the same thing they always do. Unsettling isn't illegal. I started carrying pepper spray in my hoodie pocket. Changed my bus route, texted my neighbor before and after every shift. I even stopped letting Riley sleep over at friends' houses, just in case something ever followed me home. By the 4th visit, I stopped pretending I wasn't scared. I started turning the cameras toward him. I printed out his photo from the footage. I asked around to see if anyone recognized him. Nobody did. That silence, it starts to eat away at you. You begin questioning your own reality. Did I do something wrong? Am I overreacting? Why doesn't anyone else seem worried? I stopped sleeping. I started dreaming about him standing in Riley's room. And the worst part was knowing, if I broke down, if I yelled at him, if I snapped, I'd be the one called unprofessional. 2 weeks later, I found his name. I wasn't supposed to see it, but Jim had printed a copy of the original complaint to send to corporate. He left it on the counter in the back. I saw the line, filed by Walter K. Brewster. At first, I just wanted to know if he lived nearby, A public record search, maybe an address. But what I found made my stomach twist. 5 other 7-Elevens, same complaint, same guy. In each case, the women were all around my age. Each complaint alleged harassment by the employee. In 2 cases, the women were let go. Another one transferred out of state. I printed the articles, the reports, a Reddit thread from an ex-employee in Salem. Showed it to Jim the next day. He was quiet for a long moment. "Jesus," he muttered. "So can we ban him? Get a trespass order?" Jim frowned. "We'd need to show a pattern of immediate harm. Legally, it's tricky. HR will want more than just vibes." I stared at him. "You're saying he has to do something violent before we're allowed to stop him?" "I'm saying my hands are tied." I didn't argue. Not because I agreed, but because I was tired. Exhausted from having to justify why I didn't want a stranger watching me like prey. After that, I stopped waiting for help. I changed my number. Bought an alarm keychain. I taught Riley how to call 911 just in case. I stopped caring about being polite. Let them call me rude. At least I'd still be breathing. 2 months later, I transferred to another store. Different part of town. More foot traffic. Different bus line. A step up in pay, too. It should have felt like a fresh start. But the fear didn't leave. Not really. I still flinched when the door chimed. I scanned every face, especially the tall men with gray hair. I kept the pepper spray clipped to my apron, and I started sleeping with a light on in the hallway, like Riley asked me to. The nights got better, slowly. I made friends at the new store, started walking to work with a coworker. For a while, I thought maybe it was behind me. Until one Friday morning, just before clock out, I got called into the back room. "New complaint," the assistant manager said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. No name listed, just a handwriting scrawled note in all caps. Employee was dismissive, looked at me rudely, not friendly, uncomfortable experience. No date, no receipt. My stomach turned. I flipped the page over, recognized the handwriting. It was the same as before, same slanted letters, same underline under dismissive. That night, I didn't take the bus. I called my sister, had her come get me, didn't say why. I just held Riley a little tighter when I got home. There's something no one tells you about fear. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet pressure in your chest, like being underwater. A feeling that doesn't go away even after the threat is gone. Sometimes the worst part isn't what happened. It's what could have happened if you hadn't trusted your gut. I still work retail. I've learned how to scan every customer's face without staring. I know how to walk to my car with my keys between my fingers. I know what kind of men to avoid, or at least I think I do. Walter Brewster never came back in person, but I still check for his name. I still save every complaint email, just in case it starts again. When I tell people about it, most nod politely, unsure what to say. Others give that look, the one that says, maybe you overreacted. Maybe it wasn't that bad, but I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And the worst part, he never needed to touch me to make me feel unsafe. Not all threats come with shouting or violence. Sometimes danger wears the mask of politeness, of paperwork, of routine. And too often, the systems meant to protect us don't move until it's too late. Believe people when they say something feels wrong. Because the truth isn't always in what's done. Sometimes, it's in what's almost done. I started working at 7-Eleven the year I turned 25. It was supposed to be a stopgap, just part-time while I finished my nursing certificate at Wake Tech. Rent was too high, even crashing with my aunt, and textbooks aren't cheap. I worked weekdays when I could, but Fridays and Saturdays were my longest shifts, 4 to midnight. The store sits off Galloway Drive in Raleigh, near a strip of gas stations and vape shops, with a pizza place next door that's always packed after the high school football games. Friday nights are a whole different beast. By 8:30, it's loud, messy, and full of teenagers. Mostly harmless at first. Same group of high school boys, 6 or 7 of them, jerseys still on, smelling like sweat, body spray, and cocky teenage ego. They'd crowd in, joke too loud, sometimes knock over a snack display and laugh about it. I used to find them kind of funny in a dumb little brother way. That changed last fall. It started when we stopped doing free refills. Company policy. I didn't make the rule, just had to enforce it. That Friday they came in with half-empty cups and hovered near the soda fountain. I calmly told them, "Sorry guys, we don't do free refills anymore." One of them, Dylan I think, rolled his eyes. "Seriously? That's so stupid." Another one muttered, "What's the point of working here if you're gonna be a bitch about it?" I froze for a second. I'd been called worse, but not by some 17-year-old in cleats. "Okay," I said quietly, not taking the bait. "Then you can leave." They laughed, loud and mocking, and walked out like they'd won something. I didn't think much of it until I found the note. I was cleaning up behind the counter around 11:45, checking the candy rack when I spotted a crumpled receipt paper stuck behind the gum. "You're not worth minimum wage. Smile more, or we'll make you." I just stood there holding it for a long time, feeling like someone had knocked the wind out of me. It wasn't just a stupid joke. It felt like something meant to scare me. And it worked. The worst part was how calm Tony was when I showed him. He read the note while eating sunflower seeds at the back counter. Didn't even pause chewing. "Kids being dumb," he said. "Don't let them get to you." "Tony," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "This isn't just dumb. It's targeted." He raised an eyebrow. "You think they're gonna do something?" I didn't know how to answer that. I wasn't trying to make a federal case out of it. I just didn't want to brush it off like it meant nothing. Because it didn't feel like nothing. Tony tossed the note in the trash. "If they say something next time, just stay calm. I'll talk to their coach if it gets serious." But that's just it. What counts as serious? The following Friday they were back. All of them. Same pack of boys crowding around the soda machine and chip rack, staring too long. They didn't say much, but they didn't have to. They just watched me. Like they were waiting to see how far they could push. I didn't speak to them. Just cleaned up around the register and kept my head down. At 12:03, I clocked out, pulled on my hoodie, and headed out to my car. The lot was mostly empty by then, dark except for the flickering light by the dumpsters. My heart sank as soon as I saw the car. Both my front tires were flat, not just flat, slashed. I stood there a minute, staring like maybe I was imagining it, but I wasn't. I called Tony. He sounded half asleep. "Don't panic, could have been anyone." Anyone? Only my car was back there. Only I worked that shift. And they were the only ones who came in that night who had reason to be angry. I waited an hour for a tow, freezing in the parking lot, hand on my pepper spray the whole time. I didn't cry, I didn't let myself. But something changed that night. Not in them. In me. The Monday after the tire slashing, Tony pulled me aside during my shift change. "Hey, Rachel, quick heads up, I'm moving you off Fridays and Saturdays." I blinked. "Why?" He scratched the back of his neck like it was no big deal. "Just think it's better for everyone. Less tension, you know?" I stared at him. "So I speak up? And now I'm the one getting shifted?" Tony raised his hands like he was doing me a favor. "It's not punishment. I just don't want anything getting messy. If something happens, people might say you provoked it." I felt my jaw tighten. "By doing my job?" He sighed. "Look, Rachel, I've got 5 part-timers and 1 full-timer threatening to quit next month. I don't have time to play referee between you and some teenage boys." That was it. He didn't care about the note or the tires or the way they stared at me like I was just something to mess with. He cared about keeping things quiet. So I got reassigned to early weeknights. Slower shifts, fewer customers, less drama, less of a target. And I hated it. Not just because it felt unfair, but because deep down, I knew that if something worse ever happened, something serious, I wouldn't get taken seriously then either. It had been about 2 weeks when one of them came in alone. Dylan. Same varsity jacket, Same smug look. He didn't buy anything, just wandered around the store while I pretended not to notice. But I could feel it, the way the air changed, the tension creeping into my shoulders. He stood near the Slurpee machine watching me ring up a mom buying milk and gum. Didn't say a word, just stared, unblinking. When the customer left, I looked up and met his eyes. He smiled, and then, real slow, he mouthed the word, smile. I didn't flinch. I didn't give him the reaction he wanted. I just looked away and started organizing the scratch-off display. My hands were shaking. When I looked up again, he was gone. I didn't even hear the door chime. I didn't quit, not right away, not even after that night. But things changed. I stopped wearing my name tag, parked closer to the building, kept my keys between my fingers when I walked out to my car. I started making copies of my shift logs just in case. I told myself it wasn't fear, just caution. But the truth is, once you've been made to feel small, it's hard to get that feeling out of your skin. What stuck with me wasn't just what they did, it was how easy it was, how easily they got away with it, how quickly my discomfort got labeled as overreaction. They were just kids being dumb. But if that's true, then what kind of men do they grow into? What kind of women do they think they can talk to like that? Intimidate? Laugh about behind a closed door? I don't think about Dylan much anymore. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone at the register and someone lingers too long at the coffee machine, I feel it. That same pressure in my chest. That reminder. Not everyone's joke is harmless, and not every threat needs to be loud to be dangerous. When we dismiss harassment as just kids being kids, we teach those kids they're untouchable, and we teach their targets that their fear isn't worth listening to. The little things grow, silence lets them, and if we don't name the harm early, we risk living in a world where bad behavior becomes normal, and normalized behavior becomes abuse. I've always been a creature of routine. Routines are control. They're comfort. After grad school, when the job offers didn't come the way I thought they would, routine became my coping mechanism. Every Sunday was the same. Groceries, gas if needed, and a quick stop at the 7-Eleven on Alpine Street for snacks and cheap coffee. Then back home for what Olivia and I called our Sunday reset, vacuuming, laundry, music on low, and prepping for the week. Olivia and I have lived together for almost 4 years now. First as college roommates, then just life roommates. We knew each other's quirks. She knew I double-checked locks. I knew she left every light on when she was stressed. It worked. Lately, though, something had been off. I kept catching shadows where there weren't people. Had that feeling of being watched, not in the dramatic movie way, but that low-buzz tension you feel walking past a car with someone inside. Olivia teased me about it. "You overthink everything," she said. "It's probably just being cooped up too long." She wasn't wrong. I hadn't left the city in months, wasn't working, freelancing on scraps. My headspace wasn't great, so I tried to laugh it off. That Sunday, it was cool and cloudy. We hit the grocery store around 3:30, then drove to the 7-Eleven like always. The place was mostly empty, which was normal for that time. A man in a puffy red jacket exited as we entered. Olivia went straight for the chips aisle. I lingered near the coolers, scanning the rows of canned cold brew and lemon-flavored sparkling water. That's when I noticed him. Tall. Pale. Standing over by the ice cream freezer. Hoodie pulled low, forest green, baggy. He wasn't looking at anything. Just still. Facing forward. I glanced, just a flash of a look, and caught his eyes. There was nothing there. Not annoyance. Not boredom. Just a cold, blank stare like a waiting room with the lights off. I looked away quickly. I'd learned not to make eye contact with strange men in public. But my gut told me something I didn't want to hear. He wasn't browsing. He was watching. I tried to rationalize it. It's a public place, I told myself. People stand weird sometimes. Maybe he's just zoned out. Maybe he's high. Maybe I'm projecting. But as I moved toward the end cap near the bottled tea, I noticed something. He shifted too, just enough to remain in my line of sight, ducking half behind the coffee station, not browsing, just lingering. And I felt it again. That low, unblinking pressure. I pulled out my phone and texted Olivia. "Where are you?" She replied immediately. "Grabbing soda. Meet at counter?" I typed back. "Weird guy by coffee. Hoodie. Just FYI." No reply this time. I walked toward the store window, pretending to look out at the parking lot. It was quiet. One car pulling out, a couple with a stroller walking the sidewalk. Nothing alarming. I looked back to check for Olivia. Saw her by the counter, holding a bag of chips and 2 bottles of Coke. I felt a tiny bit of relief. Then I heard the sound behind me, the soft squeak of sneakers on tile. I turned slowly. My stomach flipped. The man in the hoodie was just a few feet behind me. Too close. Way too close. No drink in his hand, no snack. Just standing there with a pack of gum, passing it slowly from one hand to the other like he didn't know what gum was for. I made myself say something, quiet but clear. "Excuse me." He didn't respond, didn't move, didn't blink. I stepped sideways, tried to walk around him. He mirrored me, like we were playing some weird slow-motion dance in a dream I couldn't wake from. Finally, I pushed past him. Not hard, but firmly enough to break whatever spell that was. My heart was pounding like I'd sprinted. I grabbed Olivia by the elbow. "We need to go," I whispered. She caught the look on my face and didn't ask questions. We walked fast, didn't run, straight to the car. I didn't exhale until the engine was on. The drive home was only 7 minutes, but it felt longer. I kept checking the rearview mirror like a movie idiot, half expecting some dusty sedan to appear behind us with the same green hoodie behind the wheel. Nothing followed. "Okay," Olivia said finally, voice low. "That was him, right? Hoodie guy?" I nodded, still gripping the steering wheel too tightly. "I saw him in the snack aisle earlier," she said. I thought I was imagining it. He just stood there, looking at the Cheetos. I walked around him and he didn't move. Didn't even pretend to shop. Neither of us said anything for a moment. It felt like we were trying to convince ourselves it wasn't what it was. "He didn't say anything?" she asked. Number just stared. Jesus. We pulled into our apartment complex. I parked, didn't get out right away. I checked my phone again out of reflex. Just the usual texts from family, an email about a job I wasn't going to get, then a notification, message request, unknown number. I frowned and opened it. One image. It took a second to register. It was me, standing in 7-Eleven, in front of the cooler, hair down, one arm holding a drink, looking slightly to the left, taken from behind, taken by someone close. I didn't say anything at first, just handed the phone to Olivia. Her mouth dropped open. "This is from today. That's the green hoodie, Kayla. He took this." I nodded, hard in my throat. The image had no caption. Just that snapshot, frozen proof of something we could no longer write off as weird. We reported it the next morning. The officer at the front desk at the station was polite but seemed tired. She jotted down the number that sent the photo and the store address. "He didn't touch you? Or follow you home?" Number just stood too close. Took a photo. And stared. She typed for a while, then said, "We can request the store footage. Might take a few days. Can you forward the photo and the message?" We did. Later that week, we got a brief call back. The number that texted me was linked to a prepaid burner phone bought in cash. The security footage showed him entering around 4:10 p.m., standing by the freezer, then wandering, not buying, no talking. 32 minutes in the store. Left seconds after we did. He didn't return after that, far as we know. But the damage was done. I changed my phone number, set my social media to private. I haven't stepped foot in that 7-Eleven since. I take different routes to every errand now. Sometimes I double back just to see if anyone's following. Olivia started carrying pepper spray. I got a taser. It's not paranoia if it already happened. A few months have passed. I'm working a part-time admin job now, still looking for something better, but the bills are getting paid. Sundays look different. No more coffee runs, no more shared grocery trips. We do pickup orders now. Sometimes I think I see that hoodie in a crowd, at a crosswalk, or out of the corner of my eye. But I never really do. What sticks with me isn't just the man. It's how easy it was to almost miss him. How many women would have just called it a weird vibe and moved on? How often we're told we're overthinking. I wasn't. Neither was Olivia. And maybe that's the part that scares me the most. That someone could stand right next to you, look you in the eye, and see you as nothing more than a target. And that they don't need to say a word to make you feel it. Sometimes the most dangerous moments aren't loud or dramatic. They're quiet, subtle, and easy to dismiss. Trust your instincts. Speak up. Because the cost of staying silent in the name of being polite or not overreacting is too high, and we owe each other more than that. I used to think silence was safer. My husband Richard and I had grown so comfortable with our quiet, 2 voices in a room felt loud enough. That Tuesday was like most days lately. Richard fixing cameras, me trying to fill space with small talk. Our duplex felt hollow after our miscarriage. Peeling paint, sick porch light, and too many unspoken words. When he got the call to fix the surveillance camera at Maple Hollow Church, I offered to ride along. Sometimes I thought maybe the road noise would help us talk, but the ride was short and mostly quiet. After he finished, he suggested grabbing something at the 7-Eleven on Route 27. We pushed inside under buzzing fluorescent lights. I went right to the coffee machine. Richard walked toward the hot dog roller. The store smelled like stale coffee and air freshener, familiar and dulling. That's when I saw her. She was standing by the back wall near the ATM, mid-30s perhaps, in a gray coat that looked thrifted, stiff with body heat. Her arms hung too long, her hair twisted into a messy knot. She turned toward the coffee bar, then back to the wall, her eyes tracking everyone who came in and out. No shopping, just watching. I didn't want to stare, but I couldn't look away either. There was something precarious about her posture, like she was waiting for someone to knock her off balance. I tried to focus on coffee, but every time I looked, she was still there. That's when I remembered our miscarriage, the late-night hospital corridor, the feeling that my body betrayed me, a grief I'd buried with polite nods and sideways glances. And here was this stranger carrying a broken version of that same ache on her sleeves. I inhaled too deep, letting the air feel sharp inside my lungs. Maybe I should have stayed with Richard, but instead I walked toward her. "Hey," I comforted quietly. "Are you okay?" She flinched, so much so I thought she might collapse. She steadied herself, holding her breath with a practiced tightness. "Don't talk to me," she hissed. And then, softer, panicked. "He's here." He. But she didn't look at anyone. Just her eyes darted around the store like she expected someone to appear out of thin air. I didn't know what to do. So I stood there, shifting my weight, pretending to read labels on the freezer door, and hoped she, whoever she was, didn't ask for help again. Moments later, we were at checkout. Coffee and that coleslaw-looking burrito I kind of regretted. She was still there, at the edge of the aisles, but I couldn't keep watching her. Richard paid, and we turned. That's when she screamed. It was sudden, a raw, wailing sound that trembled through us both, like someone ripped a piece of flesh inside her chest. She stood there, her knees trembling, hands reaching for air, eyes locked on nothing. The soda aisle didn't matter anymore, neither did the hot dogs. My heart stopped. Richard gasped, took a step forward toward her. He pressed a hand against her arm as if to steady her, say, "I'm here." She slapped his hand away like it burnt and screamed, "Don't touch me." She fell back a step, eyes wild. "You fixed the camera," she whispered. Not wanting to, struggling to get words out. "They're watching me. They know where I am." Then she turned and bolted, The double doors shook with her impact. We froze. Richard and I looked at each other, the scream still echoing in our ears. The cashier, still pale, grabbed the phone. 911, she muttered. Richard leaned in. Are you okay? But there was only silence. No beep of a phone alert, no footsteps, just emptiness. We hung back by the counter. I whispered, You think she has a car? Does she need help? He didn't answer. He just kept staring at the door she disappeared through. We didn't wait for 911. We walked out slowly, buying distance against the buzz of grocery lights that suddenly felt harsh and meaningless. Outside, the parking lot was empty, no footprints, no tracks. Richard flipped over the burrito wrapper, then dropped it in the trash can. I watched him handling that paper, so small and disposable. We got in the car without words and drove home under gathering autumn dusk. 2 days later, there was a knock at our door at 9 a.m. That's unusual for any kind of visitor, especially the FBI. Richard and I answered together. The agent introduced herself, soft voice but sharp eyes, and said they were investigating the disturbance. They showed us ID and said the woman was Evelyn Harper, found behind the dumpster near our 7-Eleven. Barefoot, shocked, didn't know her own name at first. They said she had given birth in a motel room weeks before. The baby didn't make it. Partner's violent record. She'd been on the run, trying to stay ahead of him. And your husband? The agent looked at Richard. Technical work at the church led us to you. You installed or repaired a camera? Richard nodded. Yes. You were likely the last ones she saw before police took her in. My chest tightened and my throat closed. I looked at him, saw the question in his eyes. We'd been just there, in her doorway, and it shattered something small, fragile. In the weeks after, the guilt settled between us. Not like grief, someone died, but like rain after a long drought. Richard started working sunrise projects, wiping sweat off his neck at 6 a.m. Evenings were spent pacing the porch, not talking, sipping mug coffee. I softened stories of Evelyn into whispers, hung her memory like a curtain between us and normal life. We cried sometimes, but at odd times, not together. On opposite sides of the bed, caught between wanting to hold each other and not knowing how to bridge the distance again. I tried to imagine how she'd survived, where she slept, who she met. Every stage thought nagged at me. What if I'd knelt beside her, offered to call someone? In hindsight, they'd say I needed to ask permission first. But that doesn't make me feel less guilty. Our house stayed silent. But it was different now, not tense, just aware. We didn't treat each other like strangers. We treated the world like one. Friends asked how we were. I said fine. I half believed it. Then one night, Richard said quietly, I saw her eyes, Abby. I couldn't look at him. Me too. We sat together for a long time after that, shifting uncomfortably on the couch. Months have passed. The gray coat is still out there in my mind. I drove past the store last week, blinked, wished I'd never done that. We picked up new coffee mugs, small ones, softer colors. We don't talk about the miscarriage much now, it's time. But Evelyn's story stays with us. We bought winter boots and left a pair near the front door just in case. I sent flowers to a women's shelter. Richard dropped off groceries to a neighbor learning English. Tiny gestures, almost invisible. Because sometimes what people need isn't help on cue. It's the offer, quiet, simple, trusting, that shows you saw them. Every so often I pause in front of the freezer door when I buy something random. I say a little prayer for whoever needs it. That's what you can do, even if someone refuses it. Helping is more than doing. It's seeing someone break and choosing to stand there anyway. Your presence can crack open the space for healing, and sometimes that's enough to keep someone from disappearing into nothing. I wasn't trying to run for my life. I just needed to hit pause. After dropping out of college, I moved back into my mom's basement. Tessa, my girlfriend since junior year, stuck around. even though she had every reason not to. I couldn't keep a job. Her dad called me that quiet dead-end kid, and most days I couldn't argue with him. So when she suggested we take a road trip to her cousin's place in Mississippi, I said yes before she even finished the sentence. Gas was cheap. Her cousin had a guest room. It was supposed to feel like a reset. We were somewhere in Yazoo County when the tank hit low. The sun was falling behind the trees, all orange and sharp across the windshield. I pulled off Highway 57 and found a 7-Eleven tucked between dry fields and power poles. Nothing around it but gravel and flatness. Inside, the store was quiet. AC humming too loud, lights flickering a little. I grabbed a hot dog I'd regret and a bottle of Coke. Tessa wandered toward the candy aisle, her hair tied up, her hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands like she always did when she was tired. That's when I saw him. Guy was maybe mid-50s, thin with a rough beard and a coat 2 sizes too big. He sat on the stool near the slushy machine but didn't touch anything. Just stared. Not a curious stare. Something darker. Like he knew us. He started humming under his breath. Something tuneless. I tried to act normal. Paid, thanked the cashier, nudged Tessa with my elbow. She followed me out, glancing over her shoulder once. Outside, as I unlocked the car, I heard it. Nice ride. He stood maybe 6 feet from us, hands in his coat pockets, smiling like a guy who didn't smile much. Thanks, I said, without looking. We got in, locked the doors, drove off. I didn't look back until the next stop sign. That's when I saw it. A white GMC pickup pulling out of the same 7-Eleven parking lot, headlights on, slow, just far enough behind us not to be casual. The first 10 minutes I told myself it was nothing. Coincidence, same direction, that's all. But then we switched highways, made a turn that wasn't obvious, onto a county road most folks wouldn't use unless they lived nearby. The truck stayed behind us, not too close, not too far. I reached for the volume knob and turned the music down. Tessa noticed. "You good?" "Yeah," I said, trying to steady my voice. "Just tired." She looked back. That truck still behind us. I nodded once, tried to keep my grip loose on the wheel. Inside, my brain was spinning through every bad story I'd ever heard about roadside assaults, missing persons, people who vanished between exits. I sped up a little. The truck sped too. I slowed to let him pass. He slowed too. "He's following us," she whispered. "I know." The next town was too far to gamble. Nothing but empty farmland, 1 lane in each direction. The sun had dipped low now, casting that weird half-light across the road where things feel too still. Then I saw it. An old rest stop. Just a loop of pavement. A vending machine and a bathroom that probably hadn't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. But it had lights. And maybe people. I turned off. Gravel crunching under the tires. The truck followed. My heart kicked. I reached under my seat for the tire iron. Wasn't much, but it was metal. "Stay in the car," I told her. My voice cracked a little. "Lock the doors." She grabbed my wrist. "Ethan, please. I'll be right here." I promise. I stepped out, closed the door behind me. The air felt thicker now, like it was waiting. The truck parked across from us. Door creaked open. Out stepped the man, same coat, same stare. He walked slow, deliberate, like this wasn't the first time he'd done something like this. "You don't remember me?" he asked. I blinked. "Should I?" His eyes narrowed. "You look just like her." His voice was calm, too calm. "You, her, that face, that smile," he said, pointing at the car. "You don't remember, but I do." I shifted my weight. The vending machines hummed behind me. I glanced over, no one else. Just this stretch of road, and this man with a haunted look. "I think you've got the wrong guy," I said slowly. He stepped closer. "You think people just disappear?" he said. "They don't. They stick around in other people." That's when I saw it. His right hand moved from his coat pocket, and he pulled out a knife. Long, jagged, not new, like it had been used on more than just animals. I didn't think. I ran. We collided near the vending machines. I slammed my shoulder into him, heard the knife hit concrete. He lunged again, hands grabbing at my hoodie. I swung blindly, felt skin, maybe bone. Tessa was screaming from the car, honking the horn, again and again. The sound snapped something loose in me. I shoved him off. He stumbled. I heard another sound, boots on gravel. Then someone else was there. A guy, big, bald, wearing a trucker's vest and carrying a metal thermos. He tackled the man in the coat, held him down like it was a routine. "You all right?" he yelled to me. I couldn't answer. Police came 20 minutes later. I only half remember giving my statement. They cuffed the man. He never fought back. Just smiled at me, almost proud. They pulled stuff from his truck, maps, junk, and photos. Lots of them. Back at the station, they asked us to stay. They spread the photos across a table. Most were grainy, old Polaroids, some newer. One was of me and Tessa, taken earlier that night. We were at the 7-Eleven, her holding a candy bar, me with the hot dog. The photo was from across the parking lot. Another showed a couple. Same posture, same expressions. Only the photo was dated 1994. "That's not us," I said. "But it could be," Tessa whispered. The man's name was Rory Trent, a drifter, wanted for stalking in 3 states, assault in another. He'd been in and out of psychiatric holds for decades. One officer said he lost his fiancée in a car accident back in the 90s. They never found the driver. Some thought Rory never let it go. Others said he'd been looking for her and strangers ever since. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. We made it to Tessa's cousin's house, but everything felt different. I watched the rearview mirror like it was my job. I stopped at different gas stations, changed routes even when it added hours. Every time we slowed for lights, I felt that white truck just behind us, even when it wasn't. Tessa tried to talk about it once. I told her I was fine. That was a lie. She said she kept dreaming of the picture, the old one. Said it felt like we were ghosts someone had been looking for. I didn't have the words for it, but I knew what she meant. There's a weird line between grief and obsession. Most people cross it without hurting anyone. Some don't. I know I'm lucky. I'm alive. She's safe. But that night carved a groove in my mind. Now, every roadside stop feels colder. Every stranger who stares too long makes my stomach knot. I don't eat 7-Eleven hot dogs anymore. I don't let my guard down in empty places. Some people mourn by letting go. Some haunt the living, searching for someone they lost. And some of us just keep driving. Not everyone you pass on the road is harmless. Some carry grief so heavy it twists into something dangerous. Trust your instincts. Listen to the voice that says, something's off. Because sometimes survival isn't about being brave, it's about noticing what others ignore. There's this cramped little 7-Eleven tucked off the main road in Larkspur, Colorado. The kind of place where the pine trees press close and everything smells faintly like cold dirt and gasoline. It's not fancy, but it's ours. Every Tuesday and Thursday after yoga class, Jen, Mariah, and I would head there for cheap chicken tenders, neon blue slushies, and an hour of decompressing at the tiny dining counter by the window. It had this busted swivel stool and a scratched-up laminate table, but it was tradition. We called it our booth, even though it wasn't technically a booth at all. Miss Cynthia usually worked those shifts. She was in her 60s, sweet as pie, with curled gray hair and pink lipstick that never smudged. She'd always wink when she saw us coming and sneak us an extra sauce cup like it was a secret mission. Her voice was calm, the kind you trust immediately. But lately, she hadn't been around. No explanation. Just gone 1 week and replaced by a guy with twitchy eyes and sallow skin who stood too still for too long. We didn't know his name. Jen said he looked like a frog with those blinking eyes. The nickname stuck. Froggy. At first it was harmless. He just stared too much, never smiled. If you asked for ketchup, he'd blink 3 times like you asked for plutonium. Once I asked for honey mustard and he said, "You always like that one," in this weird, mumbly voice. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe Cynthia had told him, but something about the way he said it gave me goosebumps. Then we started noticing other things, like how he always seemed to be there, even when we showed up early or stayed late. One time we left around dusk and saw him standing by the dumpster, smoking and watching the cars pull out. Not moving, just watching. "Maybe he's just lonely," Mariah said. "Maybe he's a murderer," Jen replied. We all laughed, but my stomach didn't. Something about him stuck with me, the way his eyes didn't match his body, how he always seemed like he was listening for something no one else could hear. Still, we kept going, until the day I went alone. That Thursday, everything was off. Jen had volleyball practice. Mariah was babysitting her little cousins. I should have just gone straight home, but the routine had this pull, the warm smell of fried food, the sugar rush, the silence between bites. So I went alone. It was 4:45 p.m. when I walked in. The parking lot was half empty, cold wind pushing through the trees. The inside was quiet. Froggy stood behind the hot food counter, blinking like he always did. His apron looked crusted with something that might have been old sauce or something else. No one else was in the store. I gave him a small nod. "Hey, can I get chicken tenders and curly fries?" He nodded, too fast, then vanished into the back kitchen. I grabbed a water bottle and waited at the counter. The usual warm buzz in the store felt wrong, too quiet. The humming of the fridge units, the tick of the clock, and nothing else. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I glanced at the swinging kitchen door, still closed. Finally, he emerged, smiling in this stretched, twitchy way. "Sorry for the wait," he said. "Had to make it special." He handed me the food in a basket. I took it, muttered thanks, and walked to our booth. I opened the lid. Something was off. The chicken tenders looked pale. One of them had a strange gray smear on the side. I poked it with a fork and watched the breading crumble. Underneath was something mushy, not the right color for meat. My stomach clenched. I looked toward the kitchen. The door was still swinging slightly, and behind it I heard something dragging, like a heavy bag being pulled across tile. I froze. My heart started beating so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Then he called from behind the counter in voice soft and wrong. "It's fresh today. I made it just for you." I stood so fast I knocked over my drink. It spilled onto the table, soaking napkins and my phone case. I didn't stop to clean it. I didn't even respond. I just grabbed my keys and ran. I pushed through the front door with enough force to slam it open. Cold mountain air hit my face like a slap. My hand was shaking as I unlocked the car. I barely managed to shove the keys in straight. Behind me, I heard the 7-Eleven door creak again, then his voice. "Don't forget your sauce." I didn't turn around. I got in, locked the doors, peeled out of the parking lot so fast my tires kicked up gravel. I didn't stop until I hit the gas station 2 towns over, parked next to a semi-truck and sat there breathing like I'd just outrun something with teeth. I didn't eat the food, didn't touch it. I threw the whole basket out, still sealed, into the dumpster. That night, I barely slept. Every sound outside felt like him, waiting. Every creak in the house made my body jolt. My mom asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. The next day, I found Miss Cynthia's number from an old school fundraiser list. I called. She answered on the second ring. "Hello? Miss Cynthia? It's Isabel, from the 7-Eleven. You haven't been there in a while." There was a pause. Then she said real low, "I quit, honey. A week ago." My stomach dropped. "Why?" She hesitated. "They hired someone, a man. I had concerns, raised them, but management didn't care, said it wasn't serious enough." "Froggy," I whispered. "You noticed it too," she said. I told her what happened. She went silent. "You need to tell someone," she finally said. He's not supposed to be near people, not anymore. I hung up and dialed the police. The police came later that day. I gave my statement. They took it seriously, which surprised me. Maybe it was how shaken I looked. Maybe it was how I described the food or the dragging sound. 2 days later, a detective called me. They'd searched the store and reviewed internal reports. Turns out Froggy's real name was Kevin Dobner. He'd been fired from at least 2 other 7-Eleven stores for similar complaints: inappropriate comments, unclean handling of food, and one report of a stalker-like fixation on a teenage customer in Castle Rock. But what they found in Larkspur was worse. In the back room, tucked under the prep sink, was a spiral notebook. Inside were customer descriptions, handwritten, detailed, names, receipts, dates. Next to mine, Isabel, blonde, comes with friends, eats alone sometimes, likes honey mustard, Thursdays better than Tuesdays. They also found expired food relabeled with fake stickers, dipping sauces long past safe dates, meat stored in the wrong fridge, possibly contaminated. They shut the place down for health violations. Froggy Kevin was picked up at a gas station miles away. No confrontation, just blinking like he always did. They said he didn't deny anything, just smiled. After that, I couldn't even look at a convenience store the same way. It wasn't just the food, or Froggy. It was the realization that some people don't just pass through your life. They wait for cracks, for moments when you're alone, when routine dulls your guard. Jen and Mariah were horrified. We deleted all our photos at the 7-Eleven, stopped going anywhere near it. Sometimes I dream about that dragging sound behind the kitchen door. I wake up with the smell of fryer grease in my nose. The food was never the point. It was the watching, the waiting, and the fact that if I hadn't trusted that gut feeling, if I'd just taken one bite, I might have become a story someone else told later. Pay attention to what feels wrong, even when others laugh it off. Not all danger is loud or obvious. Sometimes it's a quiet stare, a late-night shift, or a routine that lulls you into feeling safe. Trust your instincts. They might save your life. People think working at a gas station overnight is boring, but boredom is a luxury. What I deal with? It's something else. I'm Seth, 21, student at the University of Alabama. I took this graveyard shift at the 7-Eleven off I-359 mostly to afford textbooks and groceries without begging my dad again. 5 nights a week, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's a sleepy little spot most of the time, nestled between a half-dead tire shop and a motel that smells like mildew and broken air conditioners. The job's not glamorous, but I don't hate it. I can study between customers, drink unlimited burnt coffee, and listen to true crime podcasts if nobody's around. Plus, you start recognizing the regulars, the night shift truckers who buy hot dogs in pairs, college kids stumbling in post-party for Gatorade, and motel residents who shuffle in like ghosts. But about 3 weeks ago, a new guy started coming in, always just before midnight. Gaunt, pale like paper, wild hair, sunken eyes. He'd grab a chicken sandwich from the hot case, a water bottle, sometimes duct tape or nail clippers. Never said anything. Just handed me the cash, stared too long, then disappeared into the back hallway where the bathroom is. I remember the first time I asked, "Hey, you okay back there?" When he was in there for half an hour. No answer. Eventually he left. Silent. That same 1,000-yard stare. After the third visit, I noticed the scratch marks. Tiny ones around the bathroom door handle. Fresh. Angry, like someone had been clawing at it. I mentioned it to my manager. She shrugged and said, "As long as he pays and doesn't make a mess, let it be." So I let it be, but I kept an eye on him. Something in my gut told me this guy wasn't just tired or poor or weird. Something was unraveling, and I was the only one watching. The thing about the night shift is it changes how you view time. You stop tracking hours and start tracking patterns. Same people, same purchases, same silences. The man, I didn't know his name yet. Always came in around the same time. He'd shuffle toward the sandwich warmer, blinking too much, like the light bothered him. He'd sometimes linger by the candy aisle, staring at the wall like he saw something there no one else did. Once, he stood frozen for almost 5 minutes by the lifesavers rack. Didn't blink, didn't speak, just stared at the metal panel beside it. I didn't ask questions. You learn not to. But I noticed things. A used bandage on the sink, smears of red across the mirror. Once I found a half-empty travel bottle of hydrogen peroxide tucked behind the toilet paper dispenser like he'd been trying to treat something. Quietly. Alone. He never flushed. I started keeping gloves behind the counter. Cleaned the bathroom every shift before anyone else could walk in. The weirdest part? He never caused a scene. Never raised his voice. Never stole. Never made demands. But every time he left, the hallway air felt colder, like he'd taken something with him, or maybe left something behind. My manager, Krista, still didn't care. "He's not hurting anybody," she said. "Might be homeless. You know how that goes." Yeah, I did. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling he was falling apart right in front of us, and we were all just pretending not to see it. It was a Wednesday night when everything cracked open. My stomach had been turning all evening, something I ate, probably. By 10:45, I knew I wouldn't make it through the shift without using the employee bathroom, but it was locked. Of course he was in there. I waited. 15 minutes, then 20. I could hear something, movement, but not steady. Like pacing, then the soft scrape of skin against porcelain. Finally, I knocked. Nothing. I waited, then knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I grabbed the backup key from under the register. It's not protocol, but I'd used it before to reset the lock when drunk guys passed out inside. I pushed open the door slowly. The light flickered, and then I saw him. Standing shirtless at the sink. Back to me. Covered in scratches, raw, bleeding, uneven, some fresh, some scabbed. He was whispering to the mirror. "They're inside me. I can feel them. They won't stop moving." I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. He turned. His eyes locked on mine, hollow but oddly calm. "I just need help getting them out," he said. "Do you have tweezers?" That was all it took. I backed out, slammed the door, locked it from the outside, and sprinted to the front. My hands shook dialing 911. I told dispatch everything. My voice barely held together. I didn't breathe right until I saw the red and blue lights through the window. They arrived fast. 2 local cops and 1 older paramedic. I handed over the key and stood back while they approached the bathroom. They opened the door and called his name, though none of us knew what it was yet. No answer, but he didn't run. He was still in the corner when they found him, curled up under the paper towel dispenser, arms wrapped tight around himself, whispering to the wall. He didn't fight, didn't even speak again, just nodded when they lifted him up and walked him out. I never saw him again. A week later, I got a call from the responding officer, a guy named Gibson. Told me the man's name was Travis Dean, 43, off his meds, diagnosed paranoid schizophrenia. His brother had kicked him out of their place 3 months earlier. He'd been sleeping behind the tire shop next door, eating 1 meal a day. From us. Gibson said Travis thought his body was being controlled, that bugs or forces were under his skin. The scratches were self-inflicted. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone. He was trying to survive something only he could see. I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "Thanks," and hung up. I still worked there. Not for the money anymore. Well, not just that. Something about staying feels important. Like I have to be the one who sees things when no one else wants to. The bathroom has a new lock now, automatic, and Krista put up one of those restroom closed between 2 and 4 a.m. signs, like it'll fix anything. But I still check the stalls. Every shift, every night. Sometimes I find nothing but a forgotten cup or crumpled receipt. Sometimes I stare at the mirror longer than I should. Because the truth is, there are people out there unraveling. Quietly, slowly. And they don't all scream. They don't all threaten. Some just want tweezers. Some just want help. Not every danger is violent. Sometimes the people who scare us are just suffering in ways we don't understand. Compassion doesn't mean ignoring risk. It means recognizing pain, even when it's messy, even when it's terrifying. There's a line between safety and silence, and we can't keep pretending we don't see it. I never planned on being in Vegas this long. What was supposed to be a quick 2-day freelance shoot for a travel blog turned into 5 nights of noise, missed deadlines, and a motel mattress that felt like sleeping on drywall. It was 3:20 in the morning, again, and I couldn't shut my brain off. I kept looping the same 3 thoughts. Why'd I take this job? What was Tessa doing right now? And why the hell does this city never sleep? I threw on my hoodie, grabbed my camera bag out of habit, and walked 2 blocks to the 7-Eleven on West Sahara. I figured I'd grab a Red Bull, maybe some chips. Just breathe a little. Reset. Nothing more. The store was nearly empty. Just humming fluorescent lights and the cashier, a young woman I'd seen once before, all nerves and big headphones. She was chewing her lip and tapping the counter like she wanted to be anywhere else. And then there was him, the man ahead of me in line, long trench coat, hollow cheeks, eyes that didn't blink. He set down 7 energy drinks, a bag of jerky, and, weirdest of all, a roll of electrical tape. His backpack looked swollen, like it wasn't just carrying clothes or gear, like it had shape to it. Edges. He mumbled to himself while counting out crumpled bills. Stay awake. Stay sharp. They can't get me if I don't blink. I stepped back, pretending to browse gum I didn't want. His voice was low, not angry, just, tired, like someone trying to outlast something. When he turned to leave, he didn't just pass me. He stopped, looked at me, dead in the face. That stare, hollow, still, like he was trying to figure out if I was real. Then he walked out. No words, no smile, just gone. I paid for my stuff quick. Red Bull, corn nuts. I didn't even really want them anymore. I just didn't want to look like I'd followed him in. I stepped outside, squinting against the buzzing pink neon from the vape shop across the way. That's when I saw him, across the street, under a burnt-out street lamp, pacing, not walking somewhere, not lost, just circling. His head kept darting toward the 7-Eleven door. His hands twitched like he was counting something invisible. I thought he might just be restless, a guy with nowhere to be. God knows there are plenty of those in Vegas. But every few steps he'd stop, look straight at the door, at me. I stayed inside the parking lot, pacing slow, acting like I was scrolling my phone, though my hand shook a little holding it. He wasn't walking away. He was getting closer. I stood there too long. The door behind me dinged and the cashier called out, soft but serious. You should probably wait before leaving. I turned. She was still behind the register, but now watching him too. He's been coming around all week, she whispered. Always after 3. Never buys the same thing twice. Last night it was batteries and string. Night before, lighter fluid. Asked me if our ceiling tiles were wired. I swallowed. You call anyone? We called once. Cops showed up an hour later. Said he wasn't carrying anything illegal. They told us to call back if he got violent. But he never does. Just watches? She nodded. And talks to himself. Says he's on some mission. The guy was still there, standing now. Right at the edge of the lot. Not moving. Just watching. I looked at her. If I leave, he's gonna follow me. She didn't say anything, but her face told me she agreed. Then, as if on cue, a lift pulled into the lot. I didn't even think. Just walked toward it, opened the back door, and slid in. The driver, mid-40s, wearing a visor and half-eaten burger in his lap, looked back at me, confused. You Aaron? I shook my head. Number, I just need a ride. Anywhere. Just down the block. I handed him a 20. He looked past me to the guy on the curb, then drove. When I got back to my motel, I didn't go to sleep. I double-checked the lock, then pushed the chair under the knob, then slid the dresser in front of it. I don't care if it looked paranoid. I wasn't taking chances. My mind was racing, not just with fear, with questions. Why me? Did I do something? Did I remind him of someone? Was he casing the store? The motel? Or was it just something broken in him, rattling loose every night he couldn't sleep? Around 4:40, I peeked through the blinds. There he was, across the street, standing under the same street lamp, still, facing my building. He didn't move for 10 minutes. When I blinked, he was gone. By morning, I'd booked a flight out 2 days early. It's been months since that night. But every time I stay in a motel now, I still move the chair under the doorknob. I still check the hallway twice before walking to the vending machines. I keep a pocket knife near my socks and never buy snacks after midnight. I didn't tell many people what happened, not because I thought they wouldn't believe me, but because I'm not even sure I understand it. That man might have been mentally ill, or high, or just lonely. Or maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe something really was chasing him, something he thought he could only outrun if he stayed awake. I don't know, but I do know what it felt like to be seen, not as a person, but as a target. And I know what it means to trust your instincts. Because when someone's pacing a sidewalk at 3:20 in the morning, mumbling about the mission and staring through your soul, it's not your job to understand him. It's your job to get away. Not all danger is loud or obvious. Sometimes it wears a blank face and stands quietly across the street. In moments like that, listening to your gut isn't paranoia. It's survival. Urban life may blur the lines between odd and unsafe, but trust your instincts. You don't owe anyone curiosity at the cost of your safety. There's a certain kind of comfort in fluorescent lights. I know that sounds weird, but when you've been in a city as loud and sprawling as LA for just a few months, you start craving any place that feels steady. For me, that was the 7-Eleven on Sunset, just past Normandy, tucked between a rundown liquor store and a sushi place that never seemed open. I'm Riley. I moved here from Colorado last August to study film scoring at LACM. Night rehearsals are part of the deal, so stopping by that store for dinner, a cup of pineapple chunks, a microwaved mac and cheese, some overpriced green juice, became routine. The staff didn't know my name, but they knew my face. I'd give a little nod, grab my things, and walk the 6 blocks home, earbuds in, keys ready. No drama, no noise. But that night, everything felt off. The moment I pushed through the sliding doors, the smell hit me, thick, acidic, moldy, like someone had poured bleach into a wet sock. At first I thought it was spoiled milk, maybe broken freezer units. It happens, but it clung to the air, sour and sticky. It made me want to breathe through my sleeve. I wasn't the only one who noticed. 2 teenagers in school uniforms were giggling near the slushy machine, nudging each other and whispering. One of them smirked and said, "He's back again." I didn't know what that meant at the time. I was halfway down the snack aisle when the smell thickened, like it had settled into the floor tiles. That's when I saw him. Back near the ice cream freezer, crouched beside the sandwich display, was a man. Mid-50s, maybe older. His hair was matted in clumps, his coat was torn wide at the shoulders, and his shoes, if you could call them that, looked duct-taped together. He wasn't shopping, he was sorting. Pulling sandwiches from the wire rack, unwrapping each one, sniffing them close to his face, then tossing them to the ground if they didn't meet some invisible standard. One landed open, mayo side down. Another he pressed between both palms and whispered something to. I couldn't hear it all, just fragments. Not this one, not poisoned. Gotta check the seal. He didn't look drunk, didn't even seem angry, just determined. His hands were shaking. Long, dirty fingernails, some split at the base. His jeans were soaked around the cuffs. I could see a knife handle sticking out of the pocket of his coat. The cashier, a guy I recognized, maybe early 30s with a nose ring, was watching from the counter, hands half lowered like he wasn't sure if he should intervene or not. I suddenly felt very aware of how quiet the store was. I grabbed a juice and moved toward the register, avoiding eye contact. I told myself, just pay and leave, don't engage. The guy clearly wasn't right, but I'd grown up being told not to stare, not to provoke, not to escalate. I kept my head down, but as I walked past him, he looked up, slow, like he sensed me, and locked eyes. And then he started following. Not fast, not aggressive, just steady. One dragging foot behind the other as if it hurt to walk. He mumbled as he came. You picked the wrong ones. They tell you which ones, but you didn't listen. I stopped short at the register. The cashier noticed. He glanced between us, then quietly said, "Hey, can you hold up a sec?" He stepped around the counter, palms open. "Sir, I need you to leave the store." The man stopped in the middle of the chip aisle, tilted his head. His eyes never left me. He smiled. Then, and I'll never forget this, he licked his fingers, slow and deliberate. The same fingers he'd just been pressing into sandwich meat. "You don't even know what you're eating," he said to no one in particular. That broke me. I dropped my food on the counter and ran. I didn't look back. I sprinted past the ATM, shoved through the glass doors, and didn't stop until I reached the corner of Sunset and Harvard. I ducked behind the bus bench, heart pounding, waiting to see if he followed. But he didn't. The street was calm again. Cars rolling by, a couple arguing outside the liquor store, someone vaping across from the laundromat. I walked the rest of the way home with my keys between my fingers. That night I threw out everything in my fridge I didn't recognize. I double-bolted the door. I didn't sleep. And I never went back to that 7-Eleven. 2 weeks later, a classmate of mine, Santi, mentioned in passing that it had been shut down temporarily. Health department stuff, some story about a smell, a customer complaint. But it wasn't until a few days later that I heard what really happened. They found a body behind the store, wrapped in plastic, like someone had been trying to preserve it. No one said who it was, just that it wasn't recent. But I kept thinking about that man, how he looked at me, how he sorted the sandwiches, how sure he seemed that something was wrong inside them. What if he wasn't just a disturbed man? What if he knew something? What if he'd been digging for an answer the only way he could, unwrapping every bite of silence left in that store? That's the part that haunts me most. Because he wasn't yelling. He wasn't violent. He was searching. And while I tell myself it was just one strange night in one strange city with one deeply unwell man, sometimes when I'm in a grocery store and the lights hum a little too loud and something smells just a little too off, I still hear him whispering. Not poisoned, not this one. In a city full of noise, we often dismiss the quiet ones. But discomfort shouldn't be ignored. It's a signal, not a weakness. Whether it's a foul smell, a stranger's stare, or something that makes your skin crawl for reasons you can't explain, listen to it. You don't owe anyone your presence, your patience, or your peace, especially when safety may depend on trusting your gut.